Hi, I'm Laurie Dobson. Today is February 22nd, 2021 on the island of Great Cranberry. And I'm happy to report that my crows outside are really excited about some of the stuff going on out there. And they've inspired me to talk about the topic, doing things for the good of others. It's, I guess, second nature for crows, or they haven't thought of it differently. But when you put out things for them outside, as we do regularly, they love peanuts. They will announce it. They will watch you from on high and they will announce it. They'll go all the way around looking for their friends and announce it if they don't see anybody, so they can all come in and share in it. You know, they're not opportunists that way. They don't just come in on their own. They're social. They care about the group of crows, and all of them doing well, you know, even if they get less or not even any. I mean, because the seagulls hear it too and they come in and they try to dominate the scene. So I find that pretty interesting. You know, some self-sacrificial things going on with animals, and it's successful. Crows are a very successful species. So why, are we successful? Are we more successful now? Are we less successful? How about the parties? Which one's better? Which one, as far as being there for people and being there for the long-term best interest of others? I would say we have nobody has any complaints with the Constitution, except maybe wanting to get more, Democrats on faster onto the, so they can dominate the Supreme Court, and then they can have a whole blue streak across the way, every single branch of our government. And I'd be fine if they, if the Democrats wanted to do the work of making sure there's inclusion, which was the strong call by Biden and the president of choice, right? The president they wanted, the president they were willing to sacrifice, put Bernie out to pasture when he was doing so well and could easily have defeated Trump without any question, without anybody questioning it or saying, oh, I'm not so sure, there might have been a fraud or there might have been this or that. If Bernie had been the candidate, there would have definitely been a swelling up of independents and everybody. It would have been a rout, and as opposed to what it was, which was not a rout. It was very close, it turns out, election. So you've got these branches of government, and I asked a question, right? Who's doing better? Who would be doing better? And what is the best party? What are the best policies, really, is the question I'm asking. So, as I said, nobody really has a problem with the Constitution. The problem is following it as it's intended and as it was intended. That's not happening. The founders wanted two parties. They wanted three branches. They wanted states to have rights. They wanted an independent judiciary. And the Supreme Court was supposed to, lifelong appointments is so they could be neutral, so they didn't have to be bought, so they would be secure in their position and could make choices based on the best long-term good of everyone, and not just people who were interested in them working for them. They are allowed to be their own judge, in other words. That was the hope. And not somebody that was sort of a partisan leader, like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, supposedly, or, any of them, pick any one of them. They're not supposed to be a champion for one side or another. They're supposed to be there for the Constitution, just as the president and just as every member of Congress. And it's just so hypocritical right now. But what I'd like to say is, if in fact we're supposed to follow the Constitution, and I go back to it because it's what we are. And without it, who are we? Are we Bill Gates's USA? Is he now the new leader of our country? He seems to think that he is, because he's talking about every single thing now, foreign policy to, the vaccine, across the board. He just seems to think that he's in charge. Money makes right in his mind, and many people with their hands out right now. It's a very much of a handout kind of situation in Washington and elsewhere. But what I'm hearing is there's some attorney generals that are concerned about certain things that are happening in the executive orders. And my question is, if we're supposed to respect the wishes of the founding fathers who wanted us to have as independent a government as possible, so we wouldn't have to be fighting back and forth like we're scrambling now to try to get a fair shake, which we're not getting still. And if ever, I wonder if ever at this point, because their tentacles are so deep, their jaws are so deep inside the blood of our country, sucking its juices out. And, you know, what happens when we're dry? What happens when we have no more resources to plunder? Well, I guess that's what we'll find out, right? Because that's happening. Just like, you know, we perfected that skill elsewhere, and now it's come home to roost. And a lot of people think, well, you know, too bad. America, you did it to other people. Now you get a taste of your own medicine. Is there any virtue left in our country worth defending at this point? Is there any point in education for kids to know what it is that our generation successfully lost for them, so they have no future? And what's the point? Many of them are now saying huge number of suicides. It's a scandal, but it's beyond scandal. It's a moral calamity. I'm running out of words. I had to buy a thesaurus the other day just to come up with new words to describe it. Older words. We used to call things what they were. You know, we used to know the right words for these things. But nowadays it's just opportunism, and it's just gone right, you know, run roughshod, just opportunism everywhere. And the latest opportunistic thing that I saw, the one that just kind of leaps out at me, you know, along with just lying about the $2,000, you know, about the taunts to raise minimum wage and cancel debt. It's all it's just appealing to, if people in special interest groups cannot figure it out now, they never will, because this has been happening. It didn't take my running for office. I'll get back to my other point in a minute, but it didn't take my running for office to recognize that they separate out the different groups just so they can attend to each one of them. It's not just Black Lives Matter. It's, you know, it's the attempt to win over and seduce various other groups with your woke speak and with your movies and everything, just, you know, just soothing and patting and saying, here's what we care about you. And these are all words, but you won't see policy change. You won't see a defunding of the police. Sorry, Black Lives Matter. But definitely you got some bumps there, and you've got people now in place that were busy talking to Facebook and Google and Twitter ahead of the Vanita Gupta, who's now in place in the Biden administration, and she was talking to them about how they could control the message, you know, how they could do that censoring thing, because she thought that was going to be needed. You know, we were going to need to have the language thing worked out. So they did. Anyway, that's happening. That will continue. Corruption will continue unless we stop it. Who's going to stop it? Where is it going to get stopped? I'm just like you. I'm waiting to see what happens. But so back to the point of this. Point of this video is that with the executive orders, the 18 executive orders, what is the point of that? Why did they have to happen? You had Biden on day one with all the branch, well, not day one, but pretty soon after, he had all the branches of government nailed down, and he could act without fanfare. He could just do all the things he wanted to do in these executive orders. But the reason for it was so that all of the language, all the work, all the things that a president would do in introducing things for debate would already have been done for him. He's like a baby in a high chair being spoon-fed pablum. Here's another executive order, honey. Just swallow. That's right. Sign this one now. Read this. And he's just continuing to eat the baby food. He can read. He's had, you know, decades of practice, nearly 100 years of practice. I mean, he's almost, I don't know. All right, I'm jumping the gun a bit, but 3/4 of a century of practice on this planet, learning how to communicate. That doesn't mean, you know, so that's probably going to be one of the last things that goes on Joe. He's pretty he's pretty cagey. He's gotten a lot of things done in sneaky ways. and he's still there. So, I mean, I think he's useful because he's the ultimate company man. He will do whatever it takes to, to keep his oar in the water. And so you'll see more and more things just being done for him. And I just think if you have all this power, why aren't you following the Constitution's requirement to at least open it up to debate? You can let things be debated, and you can still win your simple majority. You've got that. I say you because I no longer identify as a Democrat. And I said that in 2016, and then I turned around and ran for state rep, but only because of Bernie, only because I had to be fooled one extra time in 220 as well to support Bernie. Oh my God. I think we have to just hang Bernie up on a hanger somewhere and just let him be there, because I just don't know what to do with the man. Bernie, you oh God. You're one of those people that we just have such a hard time looking at straight without wanting you to be who you purport to be. And I do think at the end of the day, that is the hardest thing for me, is because and a lot of people, because we want the best person. We want to see the best in people. We want to be the best person we can be. That poem of Robbie Burns is would the something or other, if we could see ourselves as others see us. He says it in, Scottish brogue. Anyway, it's a great, if we could see ourselves as others see us, if we could recognize that these things that we want to be hopeful for our country, our state, our locality. We want to do the right thing. We want to be the best people we can be. Most of us, not all of us, obviously. But when I talk to Mainers, that's the overriding thing that I heard from people. They want the right thing. At the end of the day, for their kids, for their world, they want to leave it a better place than they found it. And I think the shock and the incomprehensible demoralization now is that not only we're leaving it worse than it was, but our children, not only don't they look like they're going to have as long a life as we are, but the climate they're inheriting, the war debt going all the way back, the war debt is coming due on them, not on us. All the expenses, and we don't even cut them a break with their education so they can get jobs, so they can pay off the debt that we're leaving them with and saddling them with. And if people would really, really take the time to realize how sick it is that we've done these things to younger people, they wouldn't say that they think that they should pay off their own debt. The least we could do is pay off the student debt and be decent towards the young. We've just populated the world with bombs. We've made the world so much more dangerous, by taunting world leaders that have nuclear capacity. When is it going to get too much? When are they all going to just agree to do some sort of isolated first strike on our country and just try to teach us the lesson that it seems like we're asking for? So, I rant and I rave and I go into these places myself of being demoralized and wanting things to change and thinking that I must have some agency, some ability to help organize people to construct some sort of a change, to build some sort of a foundation out of this place. Because I've seen how people construct those things. It just takes so much work. How, for example, could we have a better result next presidential cycle? Because Joe's not going to last, and Kamala never got any kind of vote of support for her. She got in because the bankers in Martha's Vineyard said she's our gal. And I remember seeing the first time I saw her face, and they were putting her out there as a leader. I said, who the hell is she? And she's going to be their pick. And she was, and she is. So we're going to have her next term to try to do try to get in again with special interest groups, just, that we promised the moon to. And do people have any memory? Do they have memory? Because if we do, the one thing we should remember is, what does it feel like right now? Jobs are down. 49,000 is not anything to brag about. That's not a good number. Everybody's so hopeful, so great. He's got business. He's got the Chamber of Commerce, supposedly, even though they're letting the immigrants cross the border now unchecked. No testing, no this, no that. Just come on in, everybody. The water's fine. So why is that? Why are we trying to make life harder for our workers when we're so many millions of people are out of work? Because we're gonna get those people to work because they're willing to take on the jobs, or what is it? Why is that? Have you asked yourself, why are we opening up our border there? You got a good answer for that? Then I'd like to find out, because the southern countries, we have succeeded in destabilizing them, and their drug wars and their gangs and their rackets are pretty awful. God knows, and I remember things on that one parallel living down in the West Indies. There are certain things that there's certain diseases that just proliferate, and you're not just bringing people up north, you're bringing them as they are, and they've not been well off in a lot of places, so their immune systems are compromised. So you've got some people, God bless them, they're willing to work. But if you're going to open up a border somewhere, you're going to open up borders everywhere? Are you going to do that? Are you going to allow that? I don't see the border to Canada opening, and Canada is one of the Five Eyes, right? Britain, us, Canada, New Zealand, Australia. I think those are the Five Eyes. UK. Anyway, they're one of the Five Eyes. So they're supposed to be information sharing with us. They're on a special sort of plateau place with us. Probably not too happy that we cut off the whole tar sands, with the pipeline, and we opened it up with other countries that stone women, etc. Canada has a lot higher quality of healthcare. Their workers have some immunities. They're higher grade of care than we get across the board. They take much better care of their citizens. Not that they'd want to come here. I don't know if they closed the border and we're just doing it just to look like it's us. But I'd like to know why a border to Canada is being kept up and being here 3 hours away from a country that it's a great country to visit. It's a great place to go. I'd like to, in 3 hours going that direction, hitting Canada, I'd like to be able to keep going 3.5 hours. But no, but people can fly to, Ted Cruz can fly his girls to Cancun and come right back again. Because his girls just need a break. I'd like to try to say that's no big deal, but where can we go? Where can we go these days without running into all kinds of preposterous lockdown scenarios on us, no matter what the numbers show, no matter what anything says? We're just accepting it now because we just do, because we don't ask anymore, because we're slaves. And that's what it is. Those are the things that slaves do. They don't ask questions. The house slaves in particular, because they know it's really good in the house. And if they ask questions, if they act difficult, it's the fields for them. And that's not something a slave wants, is to get kicked out into the field, which is, a modern day version of that is to get deplatformed or censored or censured or canceled. We have ways to keep us quiet now, don't you see? But if the house slaves got together, they'd be strong. They'd be strong. And this, the field slaves would join them in a minute, right? Because they got nothing to lose. They're dead in a few years at the most, with all the difficulties of their life. And people are dying. They are dying from the vaccine. You're not hearing it, but I'm hearing it. I don't know why you aren't. I guess you just don't look. You don't look at the sites that would get you in trouble. How slaves get in trouble. They go looking at the newspapers. After breakfast is over, they don't look down at the newspapers as they're cleaning up the breakfast.